dense electrons, rays of hope are soaring through the sky. Light of day, bodies ignite, the seeds ignite. No moment gone, there is no rest as people live to witness one light, one fire, one light, sways one fire, one light, one fire, rest one light around in witness. A shift, a move, a surge, we feel all and manifest. Slide from uncertainty and logic to intense. Interminable imaginaries guided by ancestor strength. Abide by no one's government. We below into the left more. We see more. Whose life is this for? Global affinities we work within our trenches. We make love through local intentions. Slow, chaotic and slow, but that seed people got you sold is one day a tree guarding you from the cold and more. We see more from margin to the core. We'll slowly nos dará gobierno, majestad. La necesidad es ajena, no sienten mi pena. Allá donde no había, no solicito permiso para la vida. Soy rica en esperanzas y de reto no me niego. Le daré vista hasta el más ciego. Soy rica en esperanzas y de reto no me niego. Estoy aquí y de reto no me niego. Estoy aquí. Estoy aquí, yo veré, no me encierro. Estoy aquí. Conocí, siempre hay manera. No más necesito un terrenito, una parcela. Hay bastantes, sobran ejidos robados y prestados. El vivo sigue de pie, no como el muerto acostado. Ay, esas cumbres, cómo brillan, llamando la atención. A través del mundo aumentan los hogares de la mina y carbón. Allá donde no había, no solicito permiso para la vida. Soy rica en esperanzas y de reto no me niego. Le daré vista hasta el más ciego. Soy rica en esperanzas y de reto no me niego. Estoy aquí y de reto no me niego. Estoy aquí. Estoy aquí, yo veré, no me encierro. Estoy aquí. Ay, esta cansosa día. Estoy aquí. Llevarnos fuerte la ansia. Estoy aquí. Clave que hierve la vida. Bajo un sudor mexicano. Over mountains, over cerros, over desert valleys, from the ranchos to the towns to the city alleys. Coming ones, coming twos, Texas, get to Cali. People walking, running, crawling, border tallies. Men, boys, women, girls, young, old, skinny, fatty. Hold their elders, hold their hopes, hold their little babies. No food, no means, no way to have it. Run, stumble, fall, get back up and at it. Yeah, make the plan, pay the man, truck it, walk it, run it. Under moon, under radar, make the dash and gun it. Touching down, get to town, washing, working, mowing. Taking heat, filling needs, sending line unknowing. That you need, feel like creep, has a present sowing. Other ties, US lies, co and tell and throwing. The more they come, build, challenge, sets of law and knowing. What is seen, what it's moving, there is no destroying. And if you've heard this story, you know
Welcome to Trek Table, your Sunday weekly podcast holding Trek space for
Black, Indigenous, Brown,
women of color,
queer or otherwise,
and our allies. Awesome. I am your host, Dayla, and today I'm holding Trek space for the folks like Dr. Colbert and Captain Burnham who are holding space for loved ones who are grieving.
And I am your co-host, Claudia, and today I'm holding Trek space for healing in our own ways.
Hi, I'm your co-host Maya, and I'm holding Trek space for all the anomalies happening in our own lives.
Hi, I'm your co-host Maya Mama, and I'm holding Trek space for all of you, like me, that are just catching up. Welcome back.
Yes. We want to welcome everybody to the Trek Table. Thank you so much. We want to start by acknowledging that our teams for the Trek Table are on the unceded lands of the Tongva, the Chumash, Quiche, Ohlone, Puyallup, Pawtucket, and Massachusetts peoples. We're grateful to the Indigenous stewards of these lands and the ancestors who have come before, those who are here now, and those who have yet to come. We invite our listeners and our viewers to be an acknowledgement of the lands that you are. We invite you to check the link on screen if you are not sure of whose lands that you're on. Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and take a breath. Let's breathe in all of that stewardship, all of that work. Go ahead, take a breath in. And exhale. Thank you all so much. We want to say thank you to everybody joining us today as we hold Trek Space for Women of Color here in front of our live digital audience on Outside In Theater's YouTube channel, as well as those of you listening on our podcast.
Our opening track is titled Chicana Skies by the band Quetzal off their album Quetzal. You'll be hearing several tracks by Quetzal throughout this episode of Trek Table. Follow them at Quetzal Music on Instagram and see our show notes or the chat for the link to their merchandise and more.
Yes, and we want to say welcome to episode 34 of the Trek Table. We're so excited to be coming to you live today for those of you on YouTube and those of you joining us on the podcast. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks for showing up for this conversation with women of color. We are assembled today to talk about Star Trek Discovery, Season 4, Episode 2, Anomaly. We're super excited to be back. Yes, welcome back, Maya Mama. Welcome back to the to almost our full table. We'll get a full table in a few weeks. But we're super excited. Today we're going to have a great episode. We're going to unpack this season 4 episode 2 episode. We're going to look at grief and all the folks on this ship that are grieving not only the loss of Quajan, but Tilly and Adira are dealing with some PTSD from stuff that happened on that space station last week. We have the Sunian technology that might actually help Grey get their body back. And we're also going to look at how in this episode USS Discovery continues to expand the notions of leadership in Starfleet and how women and a particular kind of leadership is happening, and we're seeing it on the show. So we're gonna break that down as well.
Yes, and if you are as happy as we are that Trek Table is holding space for disco and other Trek fans, then we invite you to share that joy with us and become a supporter at patreon.com/Trek Table.
Yes, and we're so glad that you all are joining us for this BIWAC Trek conversation. We want to say hello and welcome. And so that we can build with each other, we want to know, how do you enter this conversation? We have some new friends in the chat today, so we want to definitely know about you. It's not because we're trying to keep the gate. It's because we're trying to open it wide. How do you identify? Are you Star Trek curious, a newbie, an OG Trekkie, a Star Trekking family? Are you Star Trek fan, Star Trek zaddy? Maybe you made up your own term. We love all those things. Let us know in the chat. Yes, and welcome back to Trek Table episode 34. We're going to break down Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 2, Anomaly, and we're going to do that in a couple different ways today. We're going to get into some Trek Table questions. Claudia's here and has got those. We've also got a little bit of popcorn recap. We're going to see if the four of us can actually recap this show for you. Maya Mama's here with some Discovery design. I'll weave it all together with thematics. We've got some signal boosts today. And of course, always the Trek Table assembled will give us final thoughts on this episode and share some gratitude. So we are so excited to have you all join us, continue in this practice. If you're new to it, this is the part of our show where we invite folks to check in, share your name, your pronouns, your visual descriptions, any access check-ins. And finally, that question that I asked before we went into that break, how do you identify as a Star Trek fan? We want to welcome you back and say, hey, Maya Mama, can you go first and go ahead and check in for us?
Yeah, well, I'm Maya Mama. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a youngish looking middle-aged black woman. I'm wearing my blue disco t-shirt and sort of like gold-ish eye makeup with a red lipstick. I'm also wearing a headband. Let's see if I'm turning the right way with a little command with it's a command red with a Star Trek insignia badge on it. I am from a generational Star Trek family and I identify as pan or omni sci-fi.
Okay, pan or omni sci-fi. That's what's up.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go next, and then I'll invite you to go next, Claudia. Hey everybody, I'm Dayla. My pronouns are she, he, they, and Dayla. My visual check-in is I'm a mixed Filipinx person. My black hair has got some blue tips, but my hair is being real fun today, so we'll see what it does on this show for those of us watching visually. In terms of my access check-ins, I'm doing well. A little bit of the weather change here, so I'm just kind of trying to have all the liquids. In terms of how I show up to this show, I'm definitely a sci-fi nerd. Love a lot of the different things. But I would say in all those things, it makes me sci-fi poly, and of course, disco is my primary. So that's how I enter. But I would definitely say I'm a Trekkie. So yeah. Claudia, can I invite you to go next? How do you identify?
Hi, hello everyone. I'm Claudia. Gender pronouns they, their. You can also use she, hers. Visual description African American woman, big old brown afro, sitting on a virtual original Star Trek deck, possibly in the area that Spock would be in. And my access check in is that I am disabled and I'm in the middle of some kind of long-term flare, so you might see me pull a face because I'm actually in pain. I am not pulling a face because I'm pained by your Star Trek opinion. So you can just pay attention to my smiles. Don't pay attention to my frowns. Other than that, all of my access needs are met because I've got my tea Earl Grey hot. I've got allergies as well, so it's nice to have this tea. And I identify as definitely generational Star Trek because I learned to love Star Trek from my mama, and I am teaching all the cousins and nieces and nephews to love it too. But I would also say I'm a poly sci-fi person. I love everything science fiction, and I have deep relationships with many science fiction franchises.
Awesome. Welcome. Thanks so much. Maya, can I invite you to check in?
Hello, hello, bienvenidos. Yo soy Maya. Maya, I go by she, her, hers pronouns. I'm a Latina Guatemalan mestiza. I have some purplish lipstick today, also magenta purplish hair. I don't know how that happens. It just does. I wear glasses, and I am sci-fi curious and, been jumping into Star Trek, trying to hang on, ask some questions. I'm not the expert here, but I do have fun talking about it and especially talking about Star Trek Discovery. But today I am hanging out in the bar with Dr. Colbert in my background. And, we're just having some drinks. I'm wearing a blue original series t-shirt with some chunky jewelry. And I've got little hand earrings. I don't know if you can see them, but they make me think of, working in the spore drive with those empath hands. So happy to be here today.
Awesome. Welcome. Thanks so much, everybody gathered today. Welcome to our friends also gathered in the chat as we get ready for this final round of business before we jump into our conversations today. We just want to name that when you come here to the Trek table, we have some agreements about how to talk to each other. First and foremost, we want to say welcome to all who enter. Whether you're a newbie or you're raised in a Star Trekking generational family, welcome. We want to build this space with you together.
Whether you use Trek Table as your nerdy exploration or as part of your self-care ritual, Trek Table is a weekly space to put down the world for a second and come into Trek space.
This is a space for Black, Brown, Indigenous women of color to be a fan, a geek, a nerd, and explore the vastness of the Star Trek multiverse.
Yes, and Trek Table is also a place for allies to come and engage and explore as well. This is an opportunity for allies to hold space and focus on insights and perspectives that you may not or we may not be familiar with.
And now that we are all gathered, we remind you that we seek to build an environment of mutual respect and listening. We understand that we're going to disagree, and that's actually part of the fun. But there's enough arguments and hate going out there in the world, so let's keep our phasers on stun.
Yes. All right. So let's go ahead and breathe in all those agreements. Friends in the chat, friends on the podcast, and friends assembled here in video. Let's go ahead and take a breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Excellent. Thank you.
Oh, and that brings us to our first Trek Table question. We are sending these to our Trek Table questions. They're posed to our Trek Table assembled here and to those participating in the Outside In YouTube channel chat. Our first question to you is, why are there no seatbelts? Why does Discovery have no seatbelts? They're in the future. Come on.
Mira que regresa el maldito. Viene con las manos llenitas de piedra que no quiere arrojar.
So we're asking the deeply important Trek question, why no seatbelts? You can see, for those listening, we are showing a visual representation of Owu at the con not wearing a seatbelt. And we've seen our lovely friends get thrown all over the place. Y'all, why is there no seatbelts? You can have an in-universe or out-of-universe answer. I will be delighted. For our audience, I know this is a very unique question, and the first time anyone in the history of Star Trek has ever raised this question. Let's answer it for the first time. Let's start with you, Maya Mama.
I also want to just mention that don't those seats kind of look like lawn chairs? I'm just saying, really quick. But I do want to say that I believe that because all of the starships are based on Navy ships and aircraft carriers. Also, I just wanted to mention that ready rooms are compartments at aircraft carriers. On an aircraft carrier where the crew conducts pre-flight and post-flight briefs, and it's the room where they get ready. That's what a ready room is actually. But in Star Trek verse, it's like captain's office. In case somebody wanted to know, Claudia.
That was
Wow.
for our audience. I asked
Wow.
that question during our prep. I was planning to ask it during the design session, but I'm glad to learn it now. I'm going to return to our question, which is why no seatbelts? As much as I'm enjoying getting a deep dive on what a ready room is, we actually did want to know this.
It's the Navy. It's
but
because it's
why-
the Navy.
Okay, so they don't have seatbelts in the Navy. I'm going to buy this. Are there friends who have served? Can you weigh in as well? I'm going to ask you, Maya, what is your take on no seatbelts?
I mean, this is a question I've been asking from the beginning. As someone who sits in somebody's car on a regular basis that beeps at me like crazy if I don't put on my seatbelt. I do believe in safety first, but not even a grab bar, or anything, right? Not even a little kind of like place to hold on to. It doesn't, yeah. But if you had seatbelts, you couldn't do those fancy slow motion gravity distortions. So I mean,
that's awesome.
it's kind of understandable. We're flying all over the place is part of the fun of Star Trek, just whoa, I'm starting to feel some gravity distortions right now.
Now, I'm forgetting the science name for the thing that helps them to not fly all over the place, just always. Like, there's like a thing on the, that they mention it all the time because they're like, oh, the differential bumpity bump, or I forget it's an actual scientific name, though, of a thing that they have that makes it so they don't slam against the front of the ship as it's flying through space at warp speeds. So I've
It
always
doesn't have to
wondered
do
if
with gravity.
The inertia dampeners? The
Yes,
inertia dampeners.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, Maya
But-
Mama. That is correct. That is
Inertia
the-
dampeners.
That is the scientific term I was looking for. Audience, Maya Mama beat you to the punch. So I thought it was that they have science things that are supposed to make them not fly around. It's just that sometimes they don't work. And also, it makes for better drama. It makes for cooler.
Mhm.
Like if they had seatbelts, it would be a much more boring show.
Mhm.
Dayla, what do you think?
I mean, I appreciate everybody's answers up to this point. I think my gut reaction answer is I just don't think it's in the Starfleet aesthetic to have seatbelts. Like the way in which they like the bridge to go, the way in which it looks, there's not a lot of seatbelts. I mean, just looking at, thinking about accessibility and design, I was like, there is no seatbelts in these design. Like these stations are designed to be, I feel like we've had conversations on Trek Table before about where do people sit in that science lab where they're trying to solve all these problems. Like we see Tilly and Adira in this episode. So not to go on and on, but just, yeah, I'm curious. I don't know that Starfleet has an aesthetic around seatbelt safety. And so...
All right, Dayla, thank you. I would like to have a further conversation in a future episode about the accessibility of all of the Starfleet spaces. And yes, I have actually noticed that they're always doing standing work. While I appreciate standing work, the ability to have a stool or something would be useful. I don't know. I want to talk about it. Also, shout out to our amazing audience. I don't know who said this, but it's really funny. No one wants to crease their uniforms. I think that's the best answer, and that's the one that I think we're going to go with. The answer to the answer to why no seatbelts is no one wants to crease their uniforms, and that was Trek Table question number 1.
Trek Table is proud to be a part of the digital theater platform and Outside In Theater. Like and subscribe to the Outside In YouTube channel for our weekly live digital recordings. Listening on the podcast? Check out youtube.com/outsideintheater.
And with that song Matanzas by Quetzal, we know that it's time for Popcorn Recap. The game is simple. We have 2.5 minutes to share chunklets of plots from this week's episode.
Today we are talking about Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 2, Anomaly, by Anne Kofel-Saunders and Glenise Mullins, directed by Olatunde Osunsanmi.
Yes, and we think it's funny because Maya's a Star Trek newbie, kinda still. Claudia and Maya Mama come from a generational Trek family, and I love the minutia.
Brandon, please set 2.5 minutes on the timer. Can we get it done?
Incoming transmission.
Okay, so Book is in deep mourning at the top of this episode for the destruction of Quajon. Captain Burnham tries to greet him and take care of him, but then Saru arrives, and now he's an acting member of the Kelpian Council. He has this cool new badge. He was offered command on his own ship, but he said he's not ready. He wants to be Michael's number 1, aka Mr. Saru.
Yeah. And then Starfleet, they gather like all the planetary leaders to find out like what the gravitational anomaly is, but they don't have enough information. They need more data, right? That's what Michael's saying. And they need to find out where it's going to hit next. And so the Navarre, whatever they're called, the Vulcan / Romulan friends, their science institute, they offer to study the results.
Michael does one of her inspiring speeches, and then they black alert next to where the anomaly is appearing. It's huge and covered in dust. And Book's ship is the only one that could go near it to get the data they need.
So then Cappy B initially assigns Detmer to fly, but then Book advocates for himself, and later Saru agrees. So Michael sends him with safety measures, including a tether and a hologram of Stamets.
Meanwhile, in the med bay, Gray, Adira, and Culber are checking out Gray's potential new body. Incorporation is exciting. Life is going to go on. Meanwhile, Culber drops a little Easter egg to Admiral Picard in that Sunian body, and Gray is going to lose them all.
And also the Discovery computer, it's from the future or from the past. All I know is it's named itself Zora. The computer is sentient and named itself.
Stamets jokes about Michael blowing him out of the airlock, like she did last season. Too soon, maybe? Dr. Culber gives advice.
Stamets and Book are not friends. Stamets and Book who are not friends, they fight while studying the anomaly. Book notices that the silent treatment, and then Stamets was upset because Book saved his family when he couldn't, and he felt helpless.
Meanwhile, Discovery is hit by the gravitational disturbance, and they all lose gravity, and they float up, and it's really cool, and then they crash to the ground, and the ship is struggling, and they have to release the tether. Tilly is still studying the disturbance.
And a Book ship has no navigation, and but they're going to stay to get the tether. They're just like, get rid of the tether. We're just going to get all the data. But how are they going to get back? And Book is losing it. He's having a full emotional breakdown and like seeing hallucinations.
Adira and Tilly figure out predictive algorithms. Tilly does a Stamets and snaps at Adira pattern. They find it. Bryce used to serve gravity waves, and that helps figure out everything where Book should go.
So close. Okay.
It's a very
All right,
full episode.
It was a very
It was
full
very full.
episode, and I appreciate that we're trying to share the fullness of this episode. All right, we each get one more little chunklet of plot. So thank you, Maya. You just went. Maya Mama, you get one more thing to tell us. What story do you want to close out in this episode?
Well, after a private heart-to-heart with Michael, Book flies him out, and Stamets and Book become best friends.
Do they though? I think they're on a convo about it. Sorry. Okay, so
They both have
my
tingly arms.
yes. Carpal tunnel in the spore drive. Okay, so my plot point is that Tilly and Adira, that Adira is still processing all the things about Gray's body and acknowledges some PTSD from when they were in the accident and Gray passed away, and so they're dealing with a lot. Sorry. Last plot point of the show, Claudia.
Well, you forgot Tilly asked Culber for therapy. I feel like that's
Yes.
important. And then also Tilly tells Saru that the anomaly, they aren't going to be able to tell where it's going to go. They're
Yes.
like, we can't tell where it's going to go. Boom, boom, boom. At the end of the episode.
And that was popcorn recap. Good job, us.
I don't
If
know.
if you, I mean, it was a try.
Yes.
If you're looking for an act by act breakdown, check out Kennedy Allen's work on Women at Warp.
Yes, and I just want to say the chat is giving us some love. What's up, Marie Wren? We see you, Trek Table friend in the chat. We're so happy to see you in here. Yes, Cappy B is a highlight of this popcorn recap. If you're having a great time, we just want to remind you can keep the dialogue going with us. You can follow us at Instagram at Trek Table and on Twitter at Trek_Table.
Welcome to Discovery Design. Let's dish on the design elements that gave us all the drama this episode. So I've got some topics here, and I'm going to read them off, and I will invite you all to go off. So first off, let's talk about the title sequence, because you know that title sequence, it's full of spoilers and teasers and ideas. Who's got something for me? Claudia?
Well, we reviewed this a little bit last week because we talked about how it had a spoiler in it that luckily I didn't notice. But there's an entire planet that gets hit by waves. Maybe it's not a spoiler though. Maybe it's a teaser for something in the future. No, you think it's Playshawn. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Dang.
I mean, you could
Definitely.
think it's a teaser, but I just feel like that's not the spoiler to me in that trailer. There's some other things that have appeared, and so I will just say I want to go back in and encourage all of us to watch that trailer or that title sequence again, because I don't think it's just the planet. I think there's symbology in this title sequence that I am thinking about in these coming episodes, I'll just say.
I've got some ideas too. Now I'd also like to talk about Book's ship. Book's beautiful, beautiful ship. Do we know the name of Book's ship? Does it have a name? It has a beautiful, beautiful bridge, beautiful bedroom. I just love the largeness of it. The fact that it changes shape. Let's see. Dela, what do you have anything that you want to talk about with Book's ship?
I mean, I think the thing that we're learning in this episode that I thought was really great is connected to Book's ship, and we may not have visual assets for this, but like just all the things that we got with the tether this week in Book's ship, and the way that we got to see Book operating the programmable matter at his station as he's kind of having this PTSD flashback in terms of the birds that were happening in Kwejan before he like hopped in the ship to fly. So for me, his ship, it just continued. I mean, his ship is also in the opening title sequence. We get to see it change form there as well. And I just thought it was really fascinating that we got to see Stamets as Hollow in that bridge, which I think we'll have images of later in the show. But just, yeah, he has not named his ship. He just calls it my ship.
Yeah. I Googled it. It's just called Booker's ship according to the wikis.
How strange. Now, inversely, we have the discoveries, ready room, conference rooms,
Mhm.
and the way that those look. Maya, do you have anything you want to talk about with the ready room and Zora and just that whole thing?
Oh my gosh. I mean, first of all, red velvet couches and those earthy orange reds, yellows, pillows. I mean, so comfortable, so warm, so inviting. I wonder where the inspiration comes for that ready room. I feel it's very Burnham somehow, and it's Burnham where she is at this moment. Her as
Mm,
as a as a
yeah.
captain, a little bit more
Mm.
secure. You're not trying to, like influenced by her Vulcan upbringing, but really just kind of strong in this new place and space and just cozy. And she's in love too, so she's happy. And I feel like the Ready Room kind of reflects that again. And there's also a hollow in that room. That sounds like it's gonna be fun. And then the computer. I only noticed on the last rewatch that she says specifically that the computer named itself, and so I think that's gonna be interesting. I'm like, when it she said Zora, I was like Zora Neale Hurston, um because Burnham is a
Mhm.
xenoanthropologist. Zora Neale Hurston is not only a novelist but was also an anthropologist, and I think the computer, with all the new knowledge that it has, absolutely thought, Zora is a great name. It's a strong name. It has a good, history and
Yeah.
to it.
That's really beautiful. Well, and also, just the way that there's so many the differences between the different ready rooms that Lorca, Pike, and Saru had comparatively
Yeah.
to the way that Burnham does. Everyone has their
Mhm.
own personality. No, you have Lorca's like murder room that you can
Serious?
only stand in, and
With the
Pike's is
crushing,
like,
mhm.
yeah, yeah.
With his crushing
Yeah,
of
with all his
the
cookies.
fortune cookies. Yeah.
Yes, he was always crushing cookies. Like,
Mm.
I mean,
With
I gotta be
dead
real.
tribbles.
Yeah, and just weird weapons laying all over the place. And Pike's was
Mhm.
like warm and inviting and had chairs and stuff to hang out. And Saru has his plants. And yeah, Burnham's Ready Room just seems like a really cool, chill place to hang out. Now I would also like to talk about though the Ferengi. Now I know that the Ferengi look a little bit different. That is,
it's
it
the
was a little
future.
startling. I know it's the future. It's centuries in the future, and it makes 100% sense to see some slight cosmetic changes. And also just the fact that uh Klingons uh just that's all.
We haven't seen them
And
yet in the future. I was really interested, just like that room that they were in. I was trying to remember at the beginning of the show, as we're thinking about it, where are they? All the people. It's like these really brief kind of like, what is this? They're everybody's like worried about the anomaly, and they're trying to describe it and give the information that they have and share that information. But yeah, we see the president of Navarre is
Mhm.
there, who's
President
a
Tarina. Mhm.
yeah, is she considered a Vulcan, or is that
She looks
I
like a Vulcan. Yes.
yeah, looks
Mhm.
like a Vulcan. The Ferengi, I mean, I was just trying to remember, like, where are we? Where is this place? It's such a big table.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah, it
touching
looked
so
to
many people.
totally. It looked to me like that Admiral Vance kind of programmable matter conference room that he keeps using. That sometimes you can see through the floor, sometimes you can't. And when they
Mm.
did the long shot, they do a pass down where they do I think a top to bottom shot where they're passing through the star station where everybody is located. And when Discovery goes to jump later, when she calls Black Alert, they pull away from that station. So I think they've actually gathered they're still at that Federation, or that Starfleet base. But I don't
Oh
know,
yeah, yeah,
Claudia, if you have
yeah.
different thoughts.
Well, Well, I'm going back to, because I'm reading the chat and I'm seeing one of our audience members suggesting that Rom is a character from Deep Space Nine. Rom was a Ferengi that hooked up with a Bajoran. They got married. So maybe a Ferengi hooked up with a Binzite or something. Like maybe we're not seeing a pure Ferengi. We don't know. We don't know. But
Ooh.
this
Yeah,
is
just
me.
like the
I wanna,
president.
yeah, but I want to step
She's
outside of
she's
the
Bajoran. She's Bajoran
exactly
and yeah. Mm-hmm,
and Cardassian and human, totally. But if I
mm-hmm.
step outside of the Star Trek universe and just comment on designers, makeup designers, it's an artistic job that's really hardcore. For some reason, in science fiction shows, they just do not get as much love and attention as they should because they're responsible for giving us these looks that these actors have.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing it very specifically with specific actors. Like there's a relationship, there's a design relationship. The real reason why the Klingons look different in every iteration of Star Trek is because it's a different group of artists, and they don't want to replicate what came before. They want to make something new, but also they have to work with what's different with the way they're doing that. So I'm assuming it's fancier cameras that are capturing more stuff, so they can't get away with maybe some of the sloppy tricks, makeup tricks they were doing during the Deep Space Nine or TNG years. But also they might be just trying to get a little fancier with it to put their stamp on it. That's
Claudia, I love all your words. Also, time travel is also my theory on why they all look different. The Klingons each time they look different. But okay, last thing that I really want to talk about. I want to talk about that gravity well. Well, I want to talk about those cool looks of everyone rising up and freezing. The way that we could see even the explosions were frozen in air, and then everything smashes to the ground. You can see in the visual the way that everything looks. Everyone's laying on the ground. It was so awesome, and I loved it so much. Dela, you got anything you want to say? I know Claudia, you're very excited too. I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it was one of the most awesome start. I will just say, when they got sucked up in that gravity well and Burnham is floating on her back and she's like trying to get a status report, and Wosuku's like, I can't reach my station. Like, I can't tell you. I can't reach it. So I love that I love that we get the humor of that moment, and I love that we to hear her call out to Zora. And like, we were just having this whole conversation about Zora naming herself. Like, I guess the whole crew must know that she is Zora now. So I'm excited for these moments of to see what happens as they deal with this gravity well, because it was also interesting that they could count it down. I feel like I could ramble on and on, but just, then we have Tilly running in and being like, we're going to have another one in 2 seconds, and then in 4 minutes, and then in 40 seconds. So appreciating the math on all that to get them prepped for when the gravity wells approach.
Can I just jump in and say that Morlock 19 says that one thing that's interesting this new Trek productions is that they've had to change some design elements due to licensing weirdness. That's really, that's, that, I mean, it's been so long. It's almost 50 years, right, of Star Trek. And also the thing that Culber's on the bridge, because all that blood, in their mouths, their heads, everything. They keep
Oh,
getting
that was
down.
amazing, though.
Yeah.
Thank you for naming that. The red in their mouths, it looked so good. I was like, makeup design for the win. That's a really subtle touch that made me go, they're all hurt, and I can see blood in their mouths. That's nasty, but really good.
Heads on, it's really great. Wow, y'all have such great opinions, and I love it so much. I love listening to you. And that was Discovery Design.
Amazing. And we want to give a shout out to not only our friends in the chat. What's up to all our friends in the chat? Now Puget Zulu's jumping in here on this convo about licensing. We love it. But we specifically want to give a shout out to our podcast subscribers. Thanks everybody listening on the podcast. This is a future message to you from the past. Time travel in the check table announcements. We want to say thanks to everybody for following us on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Wherever you get your podcasts, don't forget to like and subscribe.
And as we head into our musical break, that brings us to Trek Table question number 2. What life-saving hobbies do you have?
Mira que regresa el maldito. Viene con las manos llenitas de piedra que no
we find out that Bryce has had a hobby in the past of surfing freights on waves, and that knowledge is what helps them to get the ship back, to get books shipped back. So, what are some life-saving hobbies that you have? What's something that you've done for fun and pleasure in the past, and now you could save somebody's life with it? I'm gonna start with you, Dayla. Dayla, life-saving hobby.
I don't know. Yeah, this is a funny one. I thought about it. I thought about a couple different things I do, but I think my two would be reflective listening can save lives. I really believe that in the crisis or in a moment, it's important to ask somebody to slow down and stop and not project what you think is happening, but to say, I heard you say, I heard you say, I heard you say. It's not only a good customer service tip, but it's actually a really deep and meaningful way to build connectivity and trust and relationship. And then the last fun thing I'd say is like, I can do a kitchen sink brunch like nobody. If somebody showed up and we had to host a breakfast for something, I'm pretty good at like putting all the things together and scrambling some eggs or easing some eggs. So it's not quite surfing, but you know, facilitation and brunch.
I love it. I love it. Mine is slightly more exciting. So I was running to work late, and I was crossing the street, and a car was coming down, and I could see that the car coming down the hill was not going to stop. And the person driving the car could saw me, and I could see their face go, "Oh no!" I saw it in real time, and there wasn't time for me to stop. So I'm in front of the car, and so what I do is I don't know why this comes to my head, but what I do is I just flip over the car. I just vault over it and land on the other side perfectly. This is before I was disabled. So I was not disabled at the time, and this did not make me disabled. I was perfectly fine afterwards. All I had was a slight scratch on the top of my foot from where the car touched the top of my foot. It almost killed me. And if I had not been able to be like, I would have been dead. Thank you, all those dance classes. I credit every single dance class, especially contact improv, that taught me how to fall and recover and react to unknown stimuli quickly and be in a position. So just thank you to all of those dance classes, all the gymnastics. I think it saved my life. Maya, what's a hobby you have like Bryce's that saved a life?
Yes, absolutely. I'm was just thinking about that dance and being able to fall. That's something for sure I hadn't thought about, but I actually have taken a class or no, been taught how to fall and how to get up in my life. So yeah, a couple different things that I was thinking about. I think making up random songs to soothe the soul. I think that's a skill. It's something I sometimes share with you all on the Trek table. I also may not always be calm in life, but I get freakishly calm in a crisis. And one of the times that I remember this was helpful as I was on a couple of humanitarian visits to the border in the last couple years, and just being able to work on the spot. I thought I was going to be handing out some food and different things, but the doctors that were there pulled me in and were just like, hand me this, I need water. And the things that I learned about how you can help people in crisis with just water, Vaseline, shampoo, and clean socks is something that I noticed is, kind of the things that we should maybe all learn how to do to help ourselves or other people or people who are houseless or in crisis. They're little tiny things that can do a lot.
Amazing. So many life-saving hobbies. Maya Mama, I know you have a lot of ways to save people's lives. What do you got to talk to us about?
So I used to work in the medical field as a caregiver, so I have a lot of skills, life-saving skills. I also learned conflict resolution and crisis intervention. And also I can create life. I mean, it's not a hobby, but it's something I can do. I have done it. I've done it in the past.
It wasn't a job. It wasn't a job, but I'm not sure if it was a hobby, but we're all really happy you did it.
It was a pleasure. Had a great time.
Amazing.
It's pretty magical, I
Amazing.
think.
All right, so we've got falling, we've got past hobbies from our audience. We have Aikido, again, knowing how to fall. Shout out for that. And
Yes.
also, just I recognize some of our audience members have zero life-saving hobbies. We don't it's all right. It's all right. This is why we have bridge crews. It's a crew. Like Tilly didn't have a actually Tilly has saved the crew a couple of times with her hobbies. That drinking upside down game, that
Yeah,
that
she's
was
just
last
really good at
season.
drinking. She has one
Yeah.
hobby. She's really
So,
good at drinking.
so it turns out, the Discovery crew has lots of amazing life-saving hobbies, but you don't need to. We're working together as a team. And that brings us to the close of Trek Table question number 2.
We also want to thank you all for listening and watching. Head to trektable.com to get a first look at the Trek Table questions, inside scoop, and more when you sign up for our mailing list at trektable.com.
And now is that solemn time in our show when we ask you to all get up in your seats and boogie down for a little bit of Star Trek dance break. Come on, Star Trek dances, best Star Trek dance moves.
A shift, a move, a surge, we feel and manifest. Slide from uncertainty and lunge into intent. Interminable imaginaries guided by ancestor strength. Abide by no one's government. We below into the left more. We see more. Whose life is this more?
All right, and welcome back to the thematic section of our Trek Table. We've been having a lot of fun today talking about all the different things from Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 2, Anomaly. And thematics is where we get to kind of braid it all together as we dive deep into these themes and insights and our reflections for this week's episode. We've got about 3 topics today, so let's kind of deal with this overarching topic. I feel like lots of shows right now being created in the 2021s are starting to deal with pandemia life and people trying to talk about kind of how do we deal with all the things. And so Star Trek Discovery is a great metaphor for what's happening. We see multiple characters dealing with grief. We see grief from Book about his planet and just the way he as an empath might be feeling grief. We also get to see how Tilly's also processing, Adira's processing some of the PTSD. People are still kind of adjusting to life there. And we get not only Captain Burnham and her trying to figure out how to be a good partner, but also how to be a good leader. We also get Dr. Kolber giving our folks an opportunity to start to really share kind of what's going on for them. So lots of different people still dealing with grief. I wonder, Maya Mama, can you jump in here for us on this topic, this episode? What are you taking away as we look at how different people are processing grief right now?
Well, what I see is that trauma is a beautiful layered parfait of horror at times in our lives. That it's never just one thing, and especially with Tilly, with what Tilly is going through, she's been going through a war. She went through losing her whole family, really, because she's all the way in the future watching people die. And everybody on the ship, everyone is grieving the loss of their past. And just the way that everyone is processing it, I just think is really beautiful. And I love that it's being acknowledged and has been for the last couple of seasons. Well, last season and this season.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you so much. Claudia, your thoughts on grief this episode, what we're seeing in this arc of this season beginning here. It began last show, but here we are in this show about grief.
Yeah. Well, I love that Dr. Culber just affirms that grief isn't hierarchical. Like there aren't, it's not a contest. There isn't a grief Olympics, and the grief that Tilly feels for losing the dream of what they want to be. Like it feels like that might be what Tilly is working through. I'm not sure. You've got Culber talking about, Stamets had such grief and loss at possibly losing his family. Culber had the loss of losing his entire life. Book has the loss of losing an entire planet. Like grief is real. Grief is non-linear. I love the parfait of horror, I would argue that yes, it's non-linear, and it means that it's cyclical, and so we're going to be not only experiencing this healing and grief, it's going to be throughout the entire episode, I think, or the entire season. I think this is a season-long arc of grief and healing about grief.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. That's what it's feeling like. Maya, what say you? Where are you? What are you thinking about in terms of grief in this episode?
Well, it's interesting because Tilly is coming back to it. You know, she's like, okay, this is something I'm having these small conversations, and she's like, I'm gonna make a longer conversation because something's just not right, and I'm curious to see how that actually develops because I don't know if I know exactly what is happening with her. It seems she has all these good reasons to be in this space, but it seems a little bit still even more than usual for Tilly. And then also Saru coming in with those kind of wisdom moments of wisdom as well. You know, he says if loss has taught us anything, that each of us must sit with pain in our own way. And I think, you know, with Burnham, she comes in to comfort Book, and she's still wearing her red uniform, which I find also kind of fascinating. She's on the clock, you know, and you know, but and she's being called, and she's like, no, I don't want to go, but Book's like, no, you need to go because he needs his moment. Like he's not totally falling apart, right? And he recognizes that when he's like, no, I'm the one who needs to fly this ship into this anomaly to get help gather some of that. Like nobody else can do that. I'm the one who needs to do it. And I really appreciate kind of that back and forth with Burnham and Book because their personal relationship is challenged by that, but also it's in the end it's the magic tool that helps for them to be able to work together. So you know, he needs his boundaries. He's got, you know, he's like, look, I'm not like a baby, I don't need a tether, you know, but also at the same time, you know, Burnham's got to figure out how this balance between that. And I think being able to bounce off of Saru really helps in those two moments later on when he comes back and he's like, yeah, now's the time to open that private channel.
Yeah, I really that makes a lot of sense. And I'm gonna hold for just a second. We have a little bit of a Tribble in a Jeffrey too. Brandon, do you want to tell me when? There we go. Thank you, everybody. Okay. I really want to appreciate what you were just saying, Maya, about Burnham and Saru. And, you know, I think what I've appreciated about Truck Table Conversations in previous seasons is just how we've been able to track that Discovery is a show that not only rewards a rewatch, as Claudia, as you say, but I also think it's a show that rewards empathetic viewing. It rewards non-toxic masculinity perceptions around groups. And so I wanted to just kind of open it up. We're seeing in this season, we're seeing President Rillick from the Federation. We're seeing President Tarina from Navarre. We get to see her in that room talking about, here's some things that we need to be aligned about because this anomaly is going to impact us all. So we're just seeing these different models of like how to lead, and the fact that Admiral Vance is there, and Admiral Vance's approach is a different kind of admiral approach than we've seen in other moments. We're seeing Mr. Saru continue to come back, and even the elegance of navigating him being a captain, not being a captain, right? So Claudia, I wonder if you want to jump in here and like, let's talk a little bit about these models of leadership that we're seeing in the show. Any things that I know some things struck you in your viewing this week?
Yes. I would say that one of the things I've loved about, and I'm going to name this as a highlight in all of the seasons of Discovery, they're giving us models of non-patriarchal leadership. I want to resist the idea that we're talking about women's leadership. That feels like a very white feminism framing, a very narrow framing. But I can name that I see Vance, I see Saru, I see Adira, I see so many characters leading in a non-patriarchal framework. The fact that Tilly is on a ship where it's okay. Tilly is not acting out of the norm when Tilly goes and asks for help. Like Tilly has a little embarrassment for themselves, which is why they talk like a pirate afterwards, which is so cute. But it's like it's them being like, all right, I guess I'm gonna ask for help. I asked for help. Great. It's not a weird thing that pathologizes their leadership. The fact that Burnham can say, hey, Saru, I would love your help. And like that's not weird. That's non-patriarchal leadership right there.
Thank you.
Sass.
My mama, yes. Couple of thoughts here, and then we'll keep going.
Yeah, I guess I have a couple of thoughts. I keep thinking about Star Trek, the movies 3 and 4, where everybody is like an upper. There are no junior officers because like everybody's a lieutenant. Everybody's a lieutenant, and I just love like everyone's a leader on that ship. Everyone is a leader. A lot like what you were saying, Claudia, is that everyone is a leader. Everyone's a lieutenant. I was sort of laughing when it was like Lieutenant Detmer, Lieutenant Owoska, Lieutenant Tilly, Lieutenant Bryce. I mean, like everyone's a lieutenant now because they saved everybody a few times. I just think it's kind of it's lovely and yeah.
I would love to have us do a Star Trek question to that. I think Bryce and Reese and Detmer and Owosukun were already lieutenants, so now it makes me wonder: did they get new ranks? Are they commanders now? Yeah,
I
because
saw
Tilly
that.
went from ensign to lieutenant. Yeah, go ahead, Maya. Your thoughts?
Oh,
on
just
leadership?
I saw in one of the extras that they are all captains, or not captains. Sorry,
Commanders.
Yes.
Thank you.
I remember that because I don't really understand the difference, but I know it's important.
I don't understand it either because on Deep Space Nine,
Right,
Sito was,
yeah.
was a captain, but then he was a commander, but then he was a captain again. I don't totally get it either. All I know is that Harry Kim is rolling in his grave. Harry Kim's like, everybody gets a promotion but me, I guess.
So that's
That's
he
why
was
it's
stuck
important.
on Voyager. Yes. All right.
Still
So
love
yes,
Voyager humor.
all of this, I love it. I love it. Maya,
Sorry,
your thoughts
sorry.
about leadership? No, it's all good. I mean, all of this is I mean, you know, Harry Kim. What can we say? I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not
I
trying
just
to negate. Maya, go
I
ahead.
just love the, I said it already, but the personal, the figuring out how the personal can influence or inform, at some points it's kind of hindering, allowing someone to still be of service, right? In the frame of book, but he's the one, he has the best skills, and she would have done the same thing in that same situation. She would have been like, I don't care if I've got trauma about this. I'm the one who's the best suited to do this this mission, etc. And she's also bouncing off of this new president presence. On the one hand, I feel a concern that she might be condescending in some way, or not really recognizing all that Burnham has, all her bravery, all of her amazing, pulling out the hat tricks and saving people, but also kind of leaving little questions there that I think aren't out of the realm of needing to kind of think about as well. Like, does everything have to be a giant save everybody situation? And that seems like maybe that's going to be a long-term thing. Finally, just on Burnham's captain voice is like butter. Okay. And her, when she speaks to the crew in a certain way, when she's handling the business, and when she opens up that private channel, oh my gosh, I was just like, yes, tell me when. I'll close my eyes and I will jump that way. We got this, baby.
Yes. All right. All the things to think about. And yes, private channels. That's a new thing that we didn't get to talk about in design either. Thanks for picking that up. All right. Last topic. I just want to say it looks like, based on the way this episode is going, that in one of the next few episodes, we're about to see whether Gray really does get this body. So I want to just remind the table, we don't have to talk through all of it right now. Initial thoughts, this episode, Gray getting to see this body. We said in Popcorn Recap, Colbert drops the Easter egg that some admiral named Picard had a body like this. So if you haven't seen Picard season 1, you're going to want to go check that out on Paramount Plus and watch through and see what they're talking about. If you're a Next Generation fan, it gives you some Noonien Soong, Data vibes in there too. So I just want to say we're going to talk more about Gray's corporeal body and like what comes into being. But in this episode, we get the teaser. I'm curious. Yeah, we're still kind of trying to figure this out. We get to see it happening. Really quick, I wonder, can I uh, as we transition into this next segment, Maya, quickly thoughts on Gray and Adira Culber, this corporeal body sequence. How are we feeling about it? Gray finally getting a body, maybe.
Yeah, it absolutely makes me want to go back and understand a little bit more about the what's the he's
Trill.
a
The
trill.
trill.
Yes, more about trills, right? And how that's also always been, it seems like, a queer metaphor within Trek. And I that's how I'm reading it here, as a queer and trans sort of metaphor. Gray specifically does say, in transitioning, I had bigger things to think about when they're talking about getting rid of the mole. But this moment where he gets to decide what his body is going to be, and how it's, and that to me just really brings up a lot of emotions. The idea, the chance to remake your body, and to be able to choose that. And then also Adira and her worries, her love for Gray, and her worry about the process, it being a beautiful scientific, a miracle to be able to do such a thing. And yeah, I'm looking forward to see how that all plays out.
Amazing. Yeah, super excited. Last go around, my mom, I'm gonna skip you. Claudia, last thoughts on this topic? You wanna save to
Yeah. Well, I feel like that we're gonna have a few more bites at this particular apple. Because I was complaining last episode, oh, they're giving us this storyline so quickly, but now I see that they're gonna be stretching it out. So this is Gray checking the body out. This is them letting us know that thing that they put in that Picard does not fundamentally change the way the universe works. Because I was wondering, why isn't everyone in a robot body living forever? Like, are we gonna see Picard? Is Picard going to do a cameo in this episode because Picard has a robot body? I haven't watched the second season of Picard. I don't think it's out yet, but I was curious because I was like, you just introduced a bananas concept to the entire universe. So this is them being like, don't worry about it. They tried it in the past. It didn't become a thing. Don't even worry about it. They wrote that for me being a nerd in the audience.
Nice.
I also just want to do a shout out for the fact that the character Gray and Adira, I believe that they are both trans characters, so that they are not only living this metaphor experience of the Trill experience being multiple genders, because I think you hit it right on the nail on the head, Maya, that like it's always been a way to talk about gender and sexual relationships. At least it's been used a lot in a lot of stories for that in both TNG and Deep Space Nine. But also in Discovery, they've decided to give us the metaphor, but also the real experience of being trans. And I was glad that they were like, I needed there to be trans people in the future. So I'm glad that there are actually trans people in outer space.
Yeah, and I'll pick up on that and close the segment and just say, yes, we're going to talk about this in this as this season evolves, as these episodes roll out and we get to see all of the things. Yes, I think we're gonna have those questions. I think one of the things that resonated for me in this episode is just watching Adira, and I was trying to understand whether Adira was having, all the feels. Adira says, like, I'm having PTSD from the explosion on the space station with Nahlis. It reminded me of the explosion where Gray passed away and I had to become a host. But it also, in the ways that Adira was looking at Gray, I guess I was also able to read my own moments around gender nonconformity and the body that I'm in, and just the future politic or the future process of like different, we already live in a time where if you have the resources, you can augment your body, you can change your body. And it just made me wonder for Adira, who is a they them person, as they identify, like, we haven't heard about where they are in their body and whether or not there's any body dysphoria. So I'm just curious in terms of like, what is it like to have that joy fulfilled? What is it like to have that joy fulfilled to see this body for Gray? And what are the feelings that Adira might be feeling? And I think, Maya, you brought that up. I think we're talking about it. So I guess that's my question in future episodes is like, what are we? And to say to Claudia, yeah, I think part of the goal was that yes, they are the first trans and non-binary characters on the show, and they are the first trans non-binary actors. So I think there's
Mm,
also these
mm.
moments. And then we're getting queer fan bam, you know, in real life, because we're seeing the way that Wilson Cruz and Anthony Rapp are being you know, adult fam to Ludo Barrio and Ian Alexander. So we've done a lot of little extra teasing out. I think we're gonna be able to benefit from this in future shows. And yes, Maya, one last thing that you wanted to share.
I just want to say with that, with those trans experiences, those trans metaphors, and those trans realities comes knowledge, new knowledge. And I think that's really what is interesting to me about science fiction in general, but also Star Trek. So, you know, that trans knowledge
Yes.
is useful to us. It's necessary and needed. Um and yeah, and I'm glad we're able to explore it. And again, like you said, that the actual actors themselves have brought their own experiences to those characters.
Yes. So many things still to talk about. Lots of things happening in our chat right now. But you know, the case with the Trek table is that every week we gather, there's always lots to say and we never get through it all. So we're so excited that folks are still with us on this question. And I'm going to call it. That was thematics for Trek Table episode 34.
All right. Well, then that brings us into our final Trek table question number 3. Should those most impacted lead in resolving their problems, or are they too involved? Book gives us the example, but I think we could talk about other characters too. What do you think?
Mira que regresa el maldito. Viene con las manos llenitas de piedra que no quiere arrojar.
All right, we're back with Trek table question number 3. The visuals are showing Book flying. You know, she didn't think that Book should fly. Book was like, I can fly. Cobra was like, I'm not sure if you should fly. Later on, Book was like, maybe I shouldn't have been flying. So I think it comes to a core question I want to raise to y'all. Should those most impacted by the thing that happened, should they lead in resolving that problem, or are they too involved? I feel like this is a question that comes up in a lot of Star Trek plots. Maya Mama, what do you think?
It's gonna be a little like kind of like a hard take here. I think that it's ableist to assume that a person that is having an issue, whether it be an emotional problem or a physical problem or illness or whatever, that they're not capable of being cognizant enough to solve their own problems. He can solve his own problems with help, and that's what he needs is support. That's what I think.
Yes. Thank you,
I think
Maya
you should
Mama.
always lead. You should always lead for your own self-advocation.
Self-advocacy, and you're naming ableism. I'm loving it. Maya, what's your take on this?
Yeah, that's super deep. I'm really kind of we'll need more time to really unpack that, but and think of that through. But I made me think about last episode, the first episode of this season, where they were coming to, you know, the butterfly people. I know that's not what they're called, but they were like, here, we're here to help, you know, no strings attached. And I think that brought up kind of like a complicated question about what help really looks like. What do people actually need and want? And they don't always have the same language to even speak. So, you know, I think there's moments when, you know, even and also back to Book where he's like, I don't need the tether. I don't need somebody, a babysitter, but and also he did need support, you know. So you know, it's like you have to figure it out together.
Yes, yes. All right, I'm loving this. Dela, what is your take on should those most impacted lead resolving their own problems, or are they too involved?
I think folks. I appreciate it. I think folks have really unpacked this pretty tight. I think for me, it feels like it's a case by case basis. I think there's stuff we have to ask ourselves in terms of if we're the leader who's making that call, like Burnham or like Book. What is our ability to trust ourselves? When can we really know ourselves? When is that moment when this is the thing that I know to be true, versus this is the thing I have to do because I believe some implicit seeking of perfection or seeking of respectability, or also just wanting to get my job done and saying I could do this job and I don't want to look like I have weakness. So so I feel like some of those factors go in. I think, yeah, having a tether made sense for Book. I think we got, I don't know. I thought this was a really great episode of Burnham asking multiple points of view, making sure Culber was there, making sure Saru was there. She was trying to double check herself, which I thought was really powerful. So if we are going to ask ourselves who can do it, then to have a squad of folks who are there also monitoring, ready at an instance. The fact that Stamets was there when Book was like, you all can just, I mean, the fact that it hit and Book and Stamets was still there, and Stamets was now in his empathy place, so that he didn't just neuro disconnect. He stayed present in that moment when the crisis actually, when the skill was overwhelmed by the feeling. So I'm all, that's kind of smart. So yeah, so I think I'm thinking that. Thank you.
Heck yeah! I mean, I'm of the firm of opinion that those most impacted should always lead. That's my opinion. And if their leadership is involving like some of that extra stuff that you're like, oh, leadership shouldn't involve you having feelings. Leadership shouldn't, like, I think that there's like something. I don't think you need to compartmentalize to lead. I think that if you have to compartmentalize in order to lead, that means you're leading something really unhealthy. So I like that they were able to figure out how to allow Book to do what Book could do best, because no one else could have done it. Detmer couldn't have flown the ship like that. So I love that. I love that. Y'all, just thank you for exploring all these questions with me, y'all. Those were our Trek Table questions for this Trek Table episode number 34. Thank you.
Awesome. And we are back here at the Trek Table. We like to do this segment called Signal Boost because we strive to hold space for Black, Indigenous, Brown, women of color. And here are some resources that amplify and highlight the works of women of color content creators, community builders, and world shapers. We have two today. I'm going to go first, and then Maya Mama's going to jump in. The first Signal Boost we want to do is we want to give what's up as folks are starting to do end of year shopping, holiday gift giving. We invite you to remember small businesses, women, POC, BIPOC, BIWOC folks run businesses. Sister Sci-Fi Bookstore is a cauldron of all things Afrofuturism, mysticism, science fiction, voodoo, magical realism, speculative fiction, and horror, casting spells to uplift literature written by Black and Native American women. And you can learn more about them at sistasci-fi.com. Hi, Mama. Can you tell us about our second Signal Boost?
Yeah, Christina Wong's Sweatshop Overlord streams December 1st through the 14th. For the link, check the New York Theater Workshop website. Yay for accessible theater. Links will be in the chat and our episode notes.
Yes, you can see that amazing show in New York, no matter where you are, streaming around the world. Awesome. So these were the folks that we wanted to amplify today. If you have a woman of color content creator that you would like us to amplify, let us know by sending us a DM at Trek Table on Instagram or at Trek_Table on Twitter. And those are signal boosts for this episode of Trek Table 34. And we want to say thank you so much all for joining us for this 34th episode of our Trek Table. And as is the case every week, we like to close out our show with final thoughts from the Trek Table assembled. We want to invite our friends in the YouTube channel chat. Go ahead and send us your final thoughts. What are you thinking about for this episode? I'm going to invite Maya Mama to go first. Can you share your final thoughts for season 4, episode 2, Anomaly?
Yeah, I just kept going back to the Kelvin verse and the fact that Spock, because there's just a lot of talk about like you've never had your world destroyed, and I'm like, oh girl, you don't know what your brother just went through watching Vulcan. And there just seems to be a lot of that's what I just keep thinking of. I keep thinking about Spock's grief in the alternate past.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna just bring that in. Breathe it in, I think, and exhale. Awesome. Thank you so much, Maya Mama. Maya, can I invite you to go next? Your final thoughts for this episode of Star Trek Discovery?
Yeah, I think there were a couple of really great little morsels that we didn't also get to, but you know, I love the moment when Tilly is recognizing that she's stammeting to Adira,
Mhm.
and I want to just think about that a little bit more. Like she's grown, she's a different rank, and what it's like to have a younger person who's also wicked smart. Trying to impress her just like she did to Stamets. And then also thinking about Stamets, and his attempt to his nervousness about working with Book and and also Book's very real like um question to him, like you haven't said more than a few words since I've been around, why are you all up in my business right now? And Stamets being able to say like this real thing that I don't know if they ever would have been able to discuss about how helpless Stamets felt, and feeling like he almost was going to lose his whole family, and how, and being able to really tell him how grateful he was for that. So I just, yeah, all the quote of that grief is grief and everyone moves through it differently, so amazing and great. And also hello Grudge on the controls growling because he can't sniff a hollow. I love you, Grudge, and I carry you, I pet you, and I respect your space, and I want to see
Awesome.
more of you because she's a queen.
Yes. Thank you so much. Awesome. Claudia, your final thoughts for this episode, Anomaly of Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah, I'll be honest, y'all. I'm not super invested in the season long arc. I rarely am. I'll get into it later, right? So like what's the anomaly? Is somebody sending it on purpose? Is it just the universe dying? Who knows? I don't totally care. What I care are, am I gonna get more juicy information about the bridge crew? I want more bridge crew moments. I want more healing from trauma. I really like that. I like when they go through like a healing arc and then I can go through it with them. I like that. And I'm just going to request less flames. Could we have less flames on the deck of the Discovery? Why is there so much fire?
Yes. That's an excellent question to ask production. Thank you so much, Claudia. All right, I will take this final thought and share with you all. I just want to say that I am still really thinking about how last week with Kobayashi Maru, we asked ourselves the question, is Kobayashi Maru the new test for an ongoing onslaught of challenges that women of color leaders are being faced and the constant set of being tested, right? And so then it makes me think about in this anomaly, what we're seeing is how, and maybe this is a larger thematics for the season. Let's see how it all rolls out. But like, yes, is this an anomaly that there is a leadership style that is not about punitiveness, it's not about imperialism, that is not about colonialism. I don't know. I think the optimist in me is still. I come to Star Trek because I believe in the infinite diversity and infinite combinations, but I also come to Star Trek because I believe in an optimistic future in which women of color and queer folks and intersectional folks of difference and disability and ability get to build a world that makes our world better. And so I guess in this moment it's like I do have some of these big questions. We see you, Satterfield, in the comments in our chat, like, yeah, what is this thing and how does it change direction? And Tilly and Saru are kind of carrying the fear right now, but I think part of me is also just like I'm so excited to watch Burnham in this chair. I'm so excited in this episode to see Saru come back and to have some placement in terms of it's not going to be a leadership battle for the captaincy seat this time. Saru's on his journey, Burnham is on hers, and here we are. So I guess this the last thing I want to say is I'm starting to track. Burnham loves to say it's a hell of a day. And that's one of the things that she says in her chair. And, as the poet, I'm always fascinated by what we're saying, how we say it. So I'm super there. And the last thing I want to say is I love that we got to see Burnham be the leader and the captain, and I would agree that that blue personal channel was the most intimate personal channel communication I think I've ever seen in Star Trek. Maybe because of the cone, but it started before she even went into the cone. Her whole tone, her mannerism changed, and it just reminds me what are the things that we carry as leaders that we have to take on and put off or emphasize or de-emphasize in order for the task ahead. So I thank you for letting me share my final thoughts on this episode. Super excited for next week. Those are all of our final thoughts on Star Trek Discovery, Season 4, Episode 2, Anomaly.
We hope you'll join us on December 5th when we talk about Season 4, Episode 3 of Star Trek Discovery, Choose to Live, which premieres on December 2nd. And as always, folks in the US and Canada can catch this and all episodes of Star Trek Discovery on Paramount Plus.
Yes, and we have been holding Trek Space for our international friends, and we believe that the new information is that our Trek friends in the UK can watch Discovery on Pluto TV. So we're hoping that continues to be true. We'll keep posting all of that. Excited that Paramount Plus, Star Trek released a statement saying that they want the international fans of Discovery to celebrate this show. So they know, they made a thing. We're still holding Trek Space for y'all. All right, and we want to say thank you so much for joining us today at the Trek Table. Don't forget, you can get first looks at the Trek Table question, inside scoops, and more when you sign up for our mailing list at trektable.com.
And you can find recordings of our Trek Table podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts.
Like and subscribe to this channel so that you can get more Trek Table into your algorithms.
Like and subscribe to us on Instagram at Trek Table and on Twitter at Trek_table.
Yes, and finally, we would like to say thank you to our Trek Table assembled here today for holding it down in this ritual. I want to say thank you so much to the band Quetzal for this amazing music today and every day. And of course, thank you to Claudia Alec, Maya Chinchilla, and Maya Mills-Lowe. I'm Allison Dela Cruz, and we just want to say thank you so much for sharing all of your insight and thoughts with us today. If we think about to the top of this show, we were holding Trek Space for folks like Dr. Culber and Captain Burnham, who are holding space for our loved ones who are grieving. We were also holding Trek Space for all the folks healing in our own ways, all the anomalies happening in our own lives, and all of you like me who are just catching up. Welcome back. We want to say thank you so much. The Trek Table executive producers are Allison Dela Cruz, Wisviminda Jariwala, production coordinator Brendan Chang, stream manager Ariana Michelle, social media manager Isil Borlasa, and our social media associate Jimena Martinez.
Deep gratitude and thanks to Outside In Theater, with extra thanks to Paul, Matt, Jessica, Danny, and Tamlin.
Thanks to Dr. Deborah Carter, Doc Zulu, and Nancy Yap, and our partners at Visual Communications.
Yes, and then finally, we'd like to say thanks to our content partners at Calling Up Justice.
Trek Table is a service mark of Dela Projects, LLC.
Yes, and we want to say thank you again so much for joining us for this episode 34 of the Trek Table. Let's go ahead and close out this ritual. I'm going to invite you to plant your feet flat on the floor. Think about that land. Think about those people. Let's go ahead and take a breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Thank you. We hope that you'll join us next Sunday, December 5th, as we dive into Choose to Live, Season 4, Episode 3 of Star Trek Discovery. So don't worry, we're going to gather again. Let's reassemble Sunday, December 5th at 4 o'clock here on the Outside In YouTube Theater channel. Thanks so much, and we'll be holding Trek Space for you till then. Have a great week.